Hello everyone, this is Hakaym and welcome back to another episode of Funday Sunday, and today is actually Mother's Day, and I wish everyone who is possibly a mother that may be watching this episode a happy Mother's Day. And I'm actually kind of curious how many is the case of that. I could think at least one that I know due to the fact that she is my friend that does support my channel. But anyways, today is actually Saturday. I recently took my own mother out for her Mother's Day treat. We walked around the mall, we went and bought some stuff, we had supper at a location that my grandparents actually had their very first date, so really cool experience seeing that. Now, moving on to the episode itself, this episode is going to be primarily all about the Royal British Cruisers. This is going to feature both the Minotaur in this very first battle, and in the second battle there is going to be the Neptune, which I like the Neptune. But anyways, this very first episode is going to be slightly aggravating, so hold on to your butts. This battle is going to be very close, and it's going to come down to whether or not a player actually follows his role of the ship that he is currently captaining. So we'll see. Now I am pushing in towards B. As you can see, it's a tier 10 battle. We have a Yamato, Fitted Grossa, Ismo, 2 Bismarcks, Minotaur, Hindenburg, Buki, Donskoy, New Orleans, Shimakaze, and a Benson. On the enemy team, there's a Yamato, 2 Fitted Grossa, Tirpitz, a Magi, Hindenburg, Zhao, Baltimore, Donskoy, New Orleans, Gearing, and a Akazuki. And as you can see, the enemy team has three radar cruisers, and that's not something I much care for as being a Royal British Cruisers. Now there is the enemy Zhao that is pushing in, showing me a broadside, but here I make a very bad mistake. I sped up a little bit too much, and I've come out of my smoke screen, fully broadside to a Zhao Tirpitz, and I believe even the enemy Yamato unfortunately only gets a few minor penetrations from the enemy Yamato. Which is actually a really good thing, because he could really end my day very quickly. So as you can see, we had about 7 ships aimed at us, and you gotta love the Royal British Cruisers armor. It's very thin, and that Tirpitz was able to penetrate our armor from the rear. So yeah, it's not particularly fun. So I have pushed my way around, and as you can see on the minimap, our team is kind of lemming train towards there was a gearing over there. Fortunately, we were able to push it back, which is good, but the enemy team is lemming training over to C. Now, we do have a friendly Benson that is doing his job, and he is currently trying to capture the B point, but I believe he was either spotted or he is either radared right now. Because once again, there are 3 cruisers with radar, and for anyone that has played or better yet, has played any ship that likes to use the smoke, yep, we are currently radared, and I am gonna go ahead and kind of push myself into this island. Unfortunately, we have just lost our Benson. Once again, we are targeted by 7 ships, which is not something very nice. Now, I have forcefully grounded myself onto these rocks, but I'm not in a particularly fantastic location. Just north of me is the Fitted Grossa. Just to the east of me is the Akazuki, plus I believe the enemy Donskoy, and I believe the Baltimore is heading that way as well. Actually, I think the Hindenburg's coming back around, and it was probably a good thing that I did not continue backing up. That probably would have ended my life right there, or at least done some pretty significant amount of damage. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and start backing up and try to get some shots off on this Fitted Grossa. Now, whenever you are playing a British cruiser, your smoke is your life, and depending on how long you are able to survive in a battle, as well as how long the battle goes on, putting down the smoke in the proper place is very important, because eventually you'll run out, because you only have 4 charges, and that is with both premium consumable as well as the additional superintendent skill that you can get with the captain. Now there is the enemy Baltimore that is pushing our way. I have dropped torpedoes, and obviously at this range the Baltimore could easily radar us and probably could get some pretty significant amount of damage. There is a enemy destroyer just to the west of me. I believe that is the enemy gearing, and we have lost a destroyer, which is the Benson. Finally realized there is the enemy gearing. Do land pretty good hits, did almost 4k of damage right there, but I think it is time to get out of there. Very sticky situation with the Baltimore and Fidel Grosso coming in. Fortunately, I think we are able to get away fairly easily and should be able to take relatively small amount of damage unless this Fidel Grosso lands his salvo. Fortunately, we actually ricochet his shells, which is actually rather surprising right there. Now our team have captured A. The enemy team have not captured B. That's kind of the standoff point at the moment. We have lost 2 ships to their 0 ships that we've sunk, which is not particularly a good thing to say, but that's the current case. Now we are pushing up north, and we're kind of chasing them around kind of in a big loop. Now I have switched my attention over to this Akazuki, hoping to take him down. Just trying to get the shells lined up, and it looks like he has altered course a bit. And yeah, that's the only bad thing about the Minotaur, and or better yet any of the British cruisers, is the airtime on the shells. They do not go straight to target, so the enemy ships that can zig and zag are a little bit more nimble when dodging your shells. Now have backed up into the point where the enemy team did see us, did drop our smoke. Fortunately, I think we were at the right time where they were reloading, so we should be fine. I did and was hoping those torpedoes will land on the Fidel Grosso, but I think he is actually gonna be able to dodge them, which is unfortunate. And we have actually caught up on ships. We have taken out one of their battleships and the Baltimore as well, which is actually a good thing, because that's one less radar cruiser I have to deal with. And here is the juicy moment: a German battleship showing me a perfect broadside, and you can see the damage is starting to rack up. We're sitting right now at about 67,000 points of damage. Akizuki is now sighted, and we can deal pretty good damage against the enemy Akizuki. It looks like torpedoes were dropped, I'm guessing, by the enemy gearing, and the Ismo on our friendly team did a fantastic job. He just took out the enemy Fidel Grosso and took out the enemy Baltimore. So now we are ahead in ships. The enemy team have captured B. We are pushing into B. Our friendly Shimakaze is sitting right outside of, or right inside of B. Currently dealing with the Turpits, but there's also several of the other cruisers on the enemy team. So he's in a very bad situation. None of our battleships are over there. And at the moment, I am hoping to finish off this Akazuki. Probably spending a little bit too much time against this Akazuki, but fortunately we are detecting him with our hydroacoustics, which is actually a good thing, because if a friendly cruiser is able to get around behind this island, we should be able to take him out. Now we are spotted by some aircraft, which is unfortunate, but not really much we can do. Now we have just taken out their Turpits, which is one less battleship we have to deal with, and the Akazuki decides to pop smoke, but once again we are the one spotting him with our hydroacoustics, and finally able to take out that plane. Good, no longer detected. And you might be kind of asking yourself why I went ahead and picked this game to show off. Well, it's starting to rear its head. You can see that we have a few battleships not making the most idealistic plays, honestly. And here's the enemy motto just pushing up. I went ahead and dumped my torps against him and popped my smoke, and this is my last smoke. Honestly, I probably could have been fine. I really had no major enemies very close to me, and here I think is a good time to try to get some shots off on this Akatsuki. Now, going back to kind of how our battleships are playing is that they're playing very passively. And I understand why they're playing passively. They're scared of getting damaged. Now, I'm not saying all our battleships are doing a piss poor job, but some of them. But we have just taken out the Akatsuki, finished him off. There is the New Orleans showing us a beautiful broadside. And a Minotaur against a broadside New Orleans, it can take him out fairly easily. Now he does turn away and is hoping to get away, but we should be able to finish him off, even though he is slightly angled. Just got to land a few more shell hits. This should be the killing blow, so that should even up the teams a little bit more. Now we are actually ahead in points, and here's the enemy Hindenburg. Let's see if we can land some good shells. It does look like he has taken the hint. A Minotaur can do a pretty significant amount of damage fairly quickly. Now, going back, I guess, once again to how our team is doing is we have a few ships I just do not understand. We have just earned Confederate too, which is pretty nice. We have a Bismarck far on the west hand side. I'm actually going to take control of the camera. He has 10,000, so he pulled away to get some health back. And we have a Vitigrosa that is nearly full health. But look how passively he is playing. He is sitting behind this island. He's not pushing in. There is no more destroyers on the enemy team. There is the Hindenburg, the Zao, the Amagi, the Donskoy, and I believe that's actually it. That's all that's left on the enemy team right now. And he's not pushing in. And if he did, this map probably would have gone the different way. Fidel does take out the enemy Hindenburg, but he was low in health, so it wasn't that particularly useful. And here I am in a bit of a issue, is that I know I have no more smokes. And this is probably a good learning time to know when to drop your smoke, when you really need to drop your smoke. And there is the enemy Zao. Obviously, he probably realizes hydroacoustics is up, and he actually does turn away. So I'm actually kind of curious whether or not that Zao had hydroacoustics. Probably not. I would have been detected as well. And there is the Amagi, who's very low in health. And if had the Vitigrosa pushed out, pushed. That's all he had to do. All he had to do was push. We probably would have won. There is the enemy Amagi. And keep in mind, I'm in a Minotaur. And I go ahead and open up a Minotaur. And I'm opening up against this Amagi. Immediately get focused on by at least 2 ships. Fortunately, the island does protect me, so I am able to get away unscathed, but my shells can actually go over this island and continue putting rounds downrange towards this Amagi. Hopefully we can finish him off. That would give us an advantage, especially since the enemy team has taken B and C, and you just see that the shells just went right through that castle right there. The enemy team have B and C. They are head in points. We are even on ships. We have two battleships against 2 cruisers, a low health Zao, and I believe the Donskoy is fairly high on health at the moment, something like this. Now, if I could, and this is one thing I would change as far as what choices I would have made. I'm actually kind of curious on this Bismarck. Yeah, he's just getting burned down alive by the enemy Zhao. We just lost the Zhao, or the Bismarck right now. Had I done things a little bit differently, I would have pushed directly into B and would have begun capturing that. Would have pushed around the island and went south a bit so that Donskoy would not have a shot on me. But I unfortunately thought the Fidelgrosse would push into B. Because the Fidelgrosse has finally come around the island and is now kind of heading towards B. So I tell the Fidelgrosse, go capture B. I'll support you, but I can't push in, which is kind of true. I can't really push in because if I do show a broadside, I will get punished, but the Minotaur can at least ricochet shells with the frontal bow armor. And so he replies, nope, torps. I'm like, okay. You're a battleship with nearly full health against a very low health Zhao and decently health Donskoy. And so he says he doesn't care. And this just ticks me off. He is, once again, a nearly full health battleship, and he does not want to push into B. The Zhao, keep in mind where the enemy ships are. The Zhao, which has 8-kilometer torps, is in C. The Donskoy, which has, I believe, around 8-kilometer torps, is over there. So had he pushed into B and begun capping it, this deficit on our points would have been quite drastically different. And there is the enemy Zhao showing me a broadside. Gonna go ahead and open up against this enemy Zhao. Need to finish him off, especially to get us back onto a more even footing. We do get Kraken Unleashed, which is actually really nice. And I probably should have just chanced it and should have chased after this Donskoy, because this Fidelgrosse is essentially useless to our team. He did not push. He stayed behind the islands. He stayed in the majority of this battle. And keep in mind, look at the time right now. It's about 2 minutes. This battle has been going on for 18 minutes. And granted, he probably used a couple heals. I will give him that. So he's probably taken some damage. But he's still sitting at around 68,000, which is only around 16,000 less from his full health pool. So not a lot of damage. Not a lot of armor piercing shells. Possibly a lot of fires, but once again, you can heal from fires. Now here I'm actually pushing into B. The Fidelgrosse, who is so afraid of torpedoes, of which most of these cruisers don't have that long range torpedoes, finally gets to B. So we are finally able to get on cap, but look at the deficit on points. And look at the time. It is going to take a full minute to capture B. He probably has definitely about 30 seconds left on C. There's no way we are going to win on points. We have to kill him. And I'm kicking myself, especially going back and re-watching this video, I'm kicking myself on what I should have done differently. And I know hindsight is 2020, but I'm really kicking myself because I should have been a little bit more aggressive. Should have just went after that Donskoy, because the Donskoy is actually doing the right thing. He realizes they are heading points. Time is almost out. Just run. That's what he's doing. His team has done the objective correctly, and all they have to do is just let time run out, because all that's left is about 30 seconds. And even with 3 capture points, we're not going to win this. We might get a closer advantage, but we're not going to win this even close. And it all comes down to how this Fidelgrosse reacted in this battle. He did not push. And granted, yes, I could have pushed. I could have been a little bit more aggressive. Probably should have done that. Yes, I agree. So this is going to be it. Or see you in the next replay. Alright everyone, we are in the next replay, and like I said in the prior replay, this is going to be a battle in the Neptune, and we are playing on Islands of Ice, one of the older maps. I kind of miss the old style map. I was not high enough tier to play a lot on it, so I don't remember much of it, but I did enjoy it. We have a Curvers, a Fidelgrossa, North Carolina, Alabama, Neptune, New Orleans, a Togo, Kutuzov, 2 Gearings, Haberdosh, and a Fletcher. And this is where it gets nasty. Montana, Ismo, North Carolina, Tirpitz, Neptune, 2 New Orleans, a Togo, and, oh, the super nasty part, 3 Gearings and a Tashkent. 3 Gearings on the enemy team. They need to die very, very quickly. Now, I am joined with a good friend of mine, Jay, in his Fletcher. And he recently got the Fletcher, and he's actually starting to enjoy it. And I probably kind of wanted to point out right now, as we're kind of getting into position, I'm going to help Jay with B as quick as I can, going for this island, which I find is a fairly good place for a British cruiser to be. In the last battle, I believe, if memory serves me, it was a very bad day for me on World of Warships. It was defeat after defeat after defeat after defeat, and most times it was due to the fact of poor teamwork. I'm not saying it wasn't my fault. There was probably a few instances where I made bad choices, but it was just a bad day for me, so it really kind of irked me seeing that Fidelgrossa saying no, he doesn't want to push in because he's scared of torpedoes. Yeah. Anyways, have pushed in, and Jay has spotted the enemy gearing, and I'm not quite into position, just now getting into position and trying to slow up. And this is one bad thing, obviously, about the British cruisers, is their deceleration does take a little while, so trying to slow up in time to get in your smoke screen can be a hassle, and here trying to hit a gearing this far out can be a slight chore. Trying to land some shots. Unfortunately, Jay has taken a lot of hits. He's actually very low on health. He had, I believe, the Tashkent was assisting as well with the gearing. So I do go ahead and drop torpedoes, hoping to catch that Tashkent. At least that's my hope. And unfortunately, only 4 made it out because my back torpedo tubes were not in a good location. Now, Jay is in his smoke screen, and as you can bet, as you will see, smoke screens are nice. They are super nice, but they have one characteristics that a lot of destroyers like to do. They are torpedo magnets, as Jay just found out from the enemy Tashkent that sent torpedoes at him. So unfortunately, we have just lost Jay and his Fletcher, and that was one of our higher tiers, and we have just lost our Haberdosh. So we have lost both our tier 9 and our tier 10 destroyer, which is not particularly good because they still have 3 of their tier 10s and 1 of their tier 9 destroyers left alive. And unfortunately, I have no one spotting for me, have no targets, and the Tashkent obviously realize torpedoes will probably be coming his way, and it does look like he's finally spotted. And go ahead and open up against this Tashkent. Let's see if we can land some shells. I'm going to go ahead and exit my own smoke screen because it was actually starting to disappear. Do land a decent hit right there. Do earn 3 defended base caps, which is not too bad. Let's see if we can land a good salvo against this Tashkent. Unfortunately, once again, trying to hit a small adjusting target, maneuvering target, can be somewhat of a chore, but it's manageable. Now, there are torpedoes incoming, and they are probably the Gearing's torpedoes, and we have just lost our Togo. So we are 3 ships down, and they have yet to lose a single ships, and they have captured A, and they are about to capture B, and they are currently contesting C. So at this point, it's not looking particularly great. It doesn't mean that we won't pull it back, but it's not looking particularly great at this time. Now we do have the Kerfers, who is currently behind us. Don't know exactly why he's way over here at B. We do have an Alabama as well. Have a New Orleans, and he just took torpedoes as well, which is unfortunate, but fortunately the Kerfers has a lot of health, so he should be fine from that hit. Now we do once again have a New Orleans who is actually pushing ahead, and I do ask the New Orleans in chat to use his radar, because if I'm detected, that means a destroyer is within 8.9 kilometers. So guess what this New Orleans does not decide to do? He does not decide to pop his radar. Now here I am actually being very aggressive, and I am pushing in, and this New Orleans is firing armor piercing. Fortunately, you're able to ricochet most of that, and we're gonna go ahead and drop our smoke screen. Now what have we learned about smoke screens? And also, what have we learned about British armor? British armor, there is none. Now smoke screens, yes, as we have learned, are torpedo magnets. So yeah, I think it's a good time to actually start reversing and get out of our smoke screen, because more than likely there are torpedoes incoming from possibly 3 destroyers, because last the one of the gearings was last seen over at A, and more than likely is probably pushing south towards B to assist his teammates. And yes, there are the torpedoes incoming from the north, the west. Yes, it was a good decision to actually start reversing, getting out of that smoke screen. Probably would have been nailed had I stayed in that, but yeah, it was a good decision to reverse out as quickly as possible. Am seeing whether or not my torpedoes will hit. Don't think they will. Something tells me they will probably miss, which is unfortunate. And I kind of want to point something out right now, is for whatever reason I feel more what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like I do a far superior job with my Neptune than I do with my Minotaur, which is, I guess, a little bit weird, because the Minotaur, well, I mean, it's not that it's better, it has better guns, but it just, the guns are a little bit quicker as far as pacing. It does have fewer guns than the Neptune. And this gearing is pushing out. I am trying to assist. I do target the enemy gearing first. Do have to actually increase the distance between shots, because he is running his speed, his engine boost, and we do take out the enemy gearing. So that is very, very nice. Our team have taken out three of their ships, actually, 2 destroyers and a battleship. We have just lost another ship. We have lost a battleship, cruiser, and 2 destroyers. So they are still, well, actually we're now finally caught up. I actually need to do the math, apparently. Finally caught up, but they definitely have a points lead. They have held A, B, and C for a little while. Fortunately, we have 2 gearings that are pushing into B. We have our battleships that are trying to assist. The Alabama is pushing towards A, or towards C, sorry. And here I kind of slightly lose connection, which is unfortunate and rather a bit annoying sometimes. And here is a very ballsy choice, but fortunately I do have a smoke screen available for me if I do need it. And we are finally detected. That must mean there is a destroyer within 8.9 kilometers, and the ISMO probably realizes that there is a Neptune fairly close to him. Does start turning away, and it looks like we have attracted the attention of the New Orleans, whose AP actually does pretty substantial amount of damage against us. And ISMO is going to have a very bad day very quickly. do get some good hits, but he does go down to the friendly Gearing's torpedoes. And now we are actually ahead in ships for once. We are actually one ship ahead, but we have still yet to capture B. We are sitting about 300 points down from the enemy team. And I'm actually going to go ahead and start moving out. And there is the enemy New Orleans. Yeah, definitely need to turn away and not show that much broadside against this New Orleans. And fortunately, we do have a smoke, which is actually very beneficial, having that smoke right there. But we do know there's at least one gearing that is in that smoke screen. And we're going to go ahead and open up against this New Orleans, see if we can get some damage. Now, this was the same New Orleans we saw at the very beginning of the battle. And he is going to be my nemesis in this battle. I will fully admit he's going to be a downright pain for me. And he probably doesn't like us either, because we've become his prime target as well. Now, the enemy gearing has taken his leave from B, because we are now beginning capturing on B cap. And we should, at least we're hoping to capture B, but it does look like the other enemy gearing has come out and pushed into B, and the enemy gearing just went down to the friendly gearing's torpedoes. There's a lot of gearings in this battle, but the teams are fairly tied. We're only one ship ahead of the enemy team, and here I do have to keep aware of my positioning. American AP is pretty damning. It has very high penetration value. So I do not really want to show broadside to this New Orleans, but at the exact same time, I don't really want to keep going forward, because there is the gearing out there somewhere, and more than likely may have dropped torpedoes. And yes, I really don't want to give the opportunity for the gearing to hit us with torpedoes. And it looks like the New Orleans switched over to HE, and now it's time to get turned and get some distance between me and this New Orleans, because he could easily just burn us to death if he gets the chance. So good idea to actually turn away and begin assisting our team over at C, because the New Orleans, he's essentially out of the fight. He's not really that useful for his team. There's not much he can do from that range, so it's a good idea to turn away from ships that are fleeing from the battle and focus on ships that are attacking. And it looks like the gearing has dropped torpedoes once again. And here we're just gonna try to focus this new North Carolina, and I believe we may have possibly, at least for a second, attracted his attention, and hoping to get good damage roll. And this is one downside of British armor piercing and the lack of high explosive, is the fact that if a battleship does turn in, gives you more of a bow profile, the armor piercing, even though it does have a certain unique attribute of having a shorter fuse, still does not do a lot of damage if a target is coming in bow. We are getting maybe about 1,000 every now and then, but most times we are getting ricochets, and the best time for a British cruiser is if a battleship shows you broadside, and this North Carolina is not particularly doing that for us. He is focused on the Fideglossa, and I'm gonna go ahead and leave the smoke screen. I really do not trust my smoke screen with the fact that there is still a gearing around, and we could still get torpedoed from that gearing. And it looks like we have attracted the attention of, I believe, the North Carolina. Yeah, it looks like the North Carolina is focusing on us, and we're gonna go ahead and turn in. And oh, looky, there's torpedoes. How'd I guess? And ouch. Gotta love British armor. Penetrated from such a sharp angle, and we actually get a lucky thing. The enemy Otago accidentally torpedoed the enemy North Carolina. So they just took out one of their own friendly ships, and now we are ahead in ships. We have 2 caps to their 1, and we know where all the ships are. There's the Otago, the New Orleans, and the enemy gearing, and it looks like the Otago wants to make a honorable sacrifice for the mistake that he just did, and he is going to rush this Fide Grosso. And I am dropping torpedoes. Yes, I know, possible hit from the Fide Grosso, but the Fide Grosso is probably going to retreat, because obviously a Otago trying to come in as quickly as possible is going to drop torpedoes, get 2 citadels, and he instantly gets wiped out. And yes, there are the torpedoes incoming from the Otago. Hopefully the Fide Grosso knew those were coming and should be able to avoid them. But the enemy team, I do not think, is going to win this. Now, at the very beginning of the battle, I was very afraid that we were going to lose once again. And the enemy team have just lost their gearing, and all that's left is the New Orleans. And like I said, if a New Orleans shows you broadside, you can do pretty substantial amount of damage, especially considering your guns fire nearly 4 times faster than a New Orleans, so you can definitely get those shots out. It looks like he has switched over to armor piercing, hoping to get a killing shot off against me, but unfortunately for this New Orleans, he is actually going to go down, I believe, in this salvo. Yep, there we go. And this is actually going to be it for this episode of Funday Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you like what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button. You guys have a great and fantastic day. Zaijian.